These bills be now read a second time, and I call the member for Indi.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to rise today and speak about the package of the Australian Defence Force, ADF, superannuation and cover bills, and why I stand to support these bills in this House. My speech is in three parts: support for the new superannuation scheme, discussing the importance of defence in my electorate of Indi, and acknowledging the contribution by service personnel. Mr Deputy Speaker, the most valuable resource of the ADS is its human resource, the men and women who are committed to the promotion and protection of Australians' interests at sea, on land, in the air, anywhere, anytime. So while the men and women of ADF are protecting our interests, it's essential the government protects their interests. And a key interest of workers is superannuation. It is the way workers can accrue funds to replace or supplement their income in retirement. The bills before the House today are about the here and now, and the introduction of new ADF super and cover schemes are an opportune time to pause and acknowledge the servicemen and women who today are serving in the ADF and those considering a career in the ADF in the future. Service in the Navy, Army and Air Force is not just a job, it's a unique career. And the findings of the Defence Force Welfare Association tell us that the majority of people who enlist in the ADF do not intend to pursue a lifetime service career. An effective ADF fighting force, in fact, demands a large core group of young adults in its fighting ranks. And this core group is constantly renewed by the steady influx of new recruits to keep the core group young. The pay and conditions for service personnel should effectively and comprehensively meet the demanding and unique nature of the day-to-day work involved in fighting. And service could be overseas on peacemaking or in warlike operations, in training establishments teaching trade skills, or providing military assistance to the civic community in times of disaster. Australia can and does rely on the men and women of the ADF with confidence, pride and respect. And noting the need for renewal of the defence workforce with younger personnel, superannuation and the accompanying death and invalidity cover schemes must be relevant, flexible and portable. Currently, full-time ADF members must be members of two military superannuation schemes: the Defence Force Retirement and Death Benefits, a defined benefit scheme, and the Military Superannuation and Benefits Scheme, a hybrid scheme, because it is part defined benefits and part accumulation. This legislation before the House today is a new military superannuation scheme for members of the ADF, and it's an accumulation scheme. The ADF super scheme has 5 important features: choice over a superannuation scheme. Individuals may join ADF super or a commercial scheme. The ability to transfer accumulated benefits to another fund if they leave the ADF before preservation age. There's no mandatory member contribution. An employer contribution rate of 15.4%, increasing to 18% during periods of warlike service, and the death and invalidity cover under the new arrangements is at least equivalent to the current MSBS cover. In a word, ADF Super provides choice, flexibility and portability. Mr Deputy Speaker, I'd like to spend a short moment of my speech talking about the DF-RDB scheme. Noting that the ADF Super is the future of superannuation for the ADF, it's timely to reflect on the past, and in particular on the earlier DF-RDB scheme. I'm delighted to support the great work of the Indi ex-service community, particularly those still in receipt of the DF-RDB. In June, I wrote to the Assistant Minister for Defence in support of 2 constituents from my electorate, Mr Jim Hislop and Mr Herb Allerbrock. These ex-servicemen have identified several sections of the DF-RDB Act in which they submit that the government is failing to meet its obligations to ex-service personnel. And on behalf of the veteran community, Jim and Herb spent many hours researching and preparing submissions on these 2 issues: an anomaly for DF-RDB recipients who commute, and the method of indexation for members who do not commute. and I support the work of Jim and Herb and add my voice to the many voices of DFRDB recipients and concerned ex-service personnel. Thank you for your work. I ask that the government investigate the issues raised, and I wait in response for the Assistant Minister's reply. Mr Deputy Speaker, defence is highly valued in my electorate of Indi. Indi is gifted to be the home to several diverse and strategically critical defence establishments in Bandiana near Wodonga and further south near Benalla. These facilities are alive with service personnel, public service staff, civilian contractors who, with their families, contribute with their communities to their community in so many ways. On Monday the 3rd of August I visited Gaza, Latchford and Wadsworth Barracks, as well as the Bandiana Neighbourhood Community Centre, Everyman's Welfare Service and the Bandiana Army Museum. And under the command of Colonel Duncan Polish, the Army Logistics Training Centre, ALTC, provides employment and training for Wodonga and surrounding areas. ALTC maintains an intake of 850 trainees and employs 1,200 Army personnel and civilians. ALTC trains new recruits, currently 1,492 in training. It trains over 5,000 students every year and spread across 334 courses. ALTC works closely with the Wodonga TAFE, Monash University and RMIT to provide nationally recognised qualification to military personnel. The facility employs trainers, often ex-military, and they also provide leadership to local youth. Defence Force trainees gain experience through apprenticeships, gaining equivalent qualifications to Cert 4 in a medical program or in electrical and mechanical engineering. Trainees may also be selected to participate in additional leadership exercises outside of their normal training, including trekking in Kokoda, Mount Feathertop and Kosciuszko. The Joint Logistics Unit, Victoria JLUV, is an impressive facility run by Colonel Todd Ashurst. The unit incorporates 120,000 square metres of storage, providing real-time logistics to the ADF. The facility provides primary support for the ADF in clothing and 50% of the national maintenance, including deep-level maintenance such as rebuilds and refreshes to light armoured vehicles and transport vehicles and equipment. Further south near Benalla is Thales Australia, a munitions factory under the Domestic Munitions Manufacturing Arrangement Project for the Department of Defence. It is a facility of national significance and vitally important to our local community in terms of employment and economic impact. The jobs are direct manufacturing jobs in regional Victoria, vital to provide economic stability and growth. And I've had the pleasure of visiting this facility on several occasions, meeting with management and workers, all focused on delivering high-quality munitions. In 2014, with the support of my neighbour, Minister Susan Lee, member for Farrer, we lobbied the government to continue to fund the Benalla and Mulwala facilities, and the government announced a 5-year plan to extend domestic munitions production at these facilities. Very welcome indeed. And after the service ends, the career journey that starts in defence is often continued when ADF personnel exit the military. Many ex-service personnel head out into the commercial workplace, bringing the skills that they have acquired and honed in the military. I meet them regularly in my electorate as small business owners, administrators, HR managers, IT technicians, telecommunications engineers, contractors, electricians, carpenters, telecommunications, public servants and community members. And as I move about my electorate, I meet many people who have served in the ADF. It's quite common for people who have served in the Bandiana military area to stay and live in the local area. They take up jobs, they contribute their knowledge and skills to their communities. And today I'd particularly like to acknowledge and commend several Indi constituents and their contribution to local government. The CEO of the Indigo Shire, Mr Jerry Smith, and the Director of Infrastructure Services at the rural city of Wangaratta, Mr Alan Clark. And I'd also like to acknowledge my political advisor, Karen Keegan, also ex-Army. The message is that service personnel are a gift that keeps on giving. It is with pleasure that I inform this place that next week I'm participating in the Australian Defence Force parliamentary program. I'm off to Alice Springs with the Army to be part of the Army Aboriginal Assistance Program, where I will work alongside Defence Force personnel. I'm honoured to be able to participate in this program. It gives me the opportunity to see how the Army works, to meet the men and women who have dedicated themselves to this unique and vitally important work. I've spoken to other members of Parliament who have participated in the program. They assure me that I will get great value and insight into the unique nature of the military service, and I've already ordered my size 9 steel-cap boots. One of the special features of the program is that I get the opportunity to host a member of the ADF here in this House this week. So welcome to all the ADF participants to Parliament House, and I particularly welcome and say thank you to Wing Commander Robin Johnston, who's working in my office. Another jewel in the Indi crown is the Hume Veterans Information Centre, located in Wodonga. This centre recently received federal government funding through the Building Excellence in Support and Training program, known as BEST. This program is administered by the Department of Veterans Affairs. The centre is a vital organisation in Indi, and without federal government support, the centre would be unable to provide the ongoing community support for veterans and war widows. In the past 12 months, the centre has experienced an increase in requests for support. The centre is keen to meet this demand and help where possible. The centre supports the veteran communities not only in Wodonga and surrounds but Tallangatta and Corowa, and provides in-home support to ensure veterans and widows are safe and being looked after. The centre relies on the help of volunteers to assist our veterans to access services and entitlements. So a warm, sincere thank you to all the people at the centre, but particularly to Kevin Williams, the Hume Veterans team. You provide tireless and timely support to the veterans community. We appreciate it and are very grateful. Thank you also to the Federal Government and Minister for Veterans Affairs, Senator Michael Ronaldson, on behalf of the Indi veterans community for your ongoing support for this centre. Mr Deputy Speaker, I've spoken at length at an earlier time about the 2015 Anzac Day centenary activities in Indi. It goes without saying that Indi turns out in great numbers to participate in the Anzac commemorative services, and I'm delighted that on September the 4th the Prime Minister will launch the 100 Years commemorative exhibition from Wodonga, and I look forward to welcome him to my electorate. So, this spirit of Anzac centenary experience, it's the government's travelling flagship, commemorates the First World War. It will visit 23 locations around Australia over the next 20 months, and Wodonga is the first step in the exhibition. The exhibition will be open at the Wodonga Sports and Leisure Centre on Friday the 4th of September and run to Thursday the 10th of September. It's an exhibition that tells the story of Australia's involvement in the First World War and the ensuing century of service of Australians' armed forces in all wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations in which Australia has been involved. An important feature of the experience will be the local stories zone, and these stories will be created with each local community and contribute a legacy for each region. And I'm delighted that some of the participants in the Anzac $150,000 contribution from the Commonwealth Government will be exhibiting. And finally, my summary and call to action. While the ADF super and cover bills are the here and now for the men and women in the Australian Defence Force, the real impact of these bills will be realised when people exit the services or, sadly, when members are medically discharged or die in service. I know that the values of courage, integrity, respect and teamwork underpin the day-to-day work of the ADF. The work is demanding, risky, stressful, tiring, lonely, repetitive and dangerous. The work takes the men and women of the ADF away from their families and friends for lengthy periods of time, often without notice. And it's timely to say again that the military service is unique. I want to place on record my respect and thanks to the men and women of the Australian Defence Force, to those currently serving, to all the volunteers, to those who have served and, sadly, to those who have given their life while serving in the Defence Forces, to their family and friends. Thank you.